Hi everybody, Giselle Grenier here from ArtPlace.ca. In today's lesson, I'm going to be working again with watercolor paper, but I'm using the Strathmore watercolor paper this time, so just work with some different papers. This one, different from the previous lesson, this one is not a block. It's actually individual sheets, and this paper is 140 pound. It's the 400 series, which is their best. Very, very thick. And with this, you can either work on the pad or work on an individual piece. With the watercolor paper, the smaller the paper, the less buckling you're going to have, and so that just works out well if you're using something a little bit thinner. And I'm just going to pull. Now I'm going to make sure that I paint it this way. That way, this edge with the glue, it'll be a reminder that when it comes to bookbinding time to make sure that I get rid of all this glue. There we go. All right, so for this particular lesson, the idea is going to be creating a background that you can write on. Well, you can write on anything. The thing is, you have to work with color. So my inspiration for this particular one, I'm thinking heart and meaning. So ideally you want to, write on the page, use it as a diary or a writing journal, something like that. But it's nice to work with painted backgrounds. And I know for a fact when I started out with my working my daily planner as a bullet journaling, that I hated using the white paper, so I painted all the pages. I just used cheap grid paper, and I stained all the pages, vintage colors, all that, and it was really, really nice. At that time, what I didn't have was a varnish that was matte, and then I reach over, and here's an ultra matte varnish, and that helps create a little bit of a barrier when it comes to writing. And you don't want to use thick paint, you want to use very thin paint. Watercolors are fine, but you'll have to fix it because depending on what you're using for writing, it'll dissolve. And I've got some gesso here, but we're not going to use gesso on the paper first, we're going to use it at the end. And I've got matte medium, which is going to help the paint flow, and we're only using 3 colors. I'm using the DecoArt Media Fluid Acrylics, and I'm using blue green light, green gold, and Hanso yellow light. Okay. Not a fan of that color, but it works for what I want to do. So this one here, there's a typo. They didn't put the transparency on here. There's a bullet, but nothing there. The green gold is transparent. Love this color. And the Hanso yellow light is a single pigment. PY3 is transparent as well. So when you're using craft paint, the craft paints don't have the actual pigments on there. So you may find that you have a yellow that looks like this, but if you were to somehow find out what pigments are actually in there, there's likely white in there. And the white helps the paint, makes it more opaque, so you don't have to use as much. And this page here already has some marks. I don't care. I'm going to start off with the matte medium, and I'm just going to use the brush from the previous video, and I'm just going to put a good amount on there. I was tempted just to go over to, I love the Traditions extender. Love that. And I'm gonna have to talk to Joe. The shelf that he built me for some of my stuff, he moved my stuff, and it's so high up now I can't reach it, and we don't let me step on ladders. So you can see now this one here, although it's 140 pound paper, look, it's already starting to curl. And Hanso yellow light right in the middle. And we're going to put that on there. This is going to be a very, very fast one. And we're going to go to green gold now. I'm just going to do 4 corners. See, that one's really transparent. And now I'm just going to feather that so you can see where here, see here where the paint went onto an area without the matte medium. It's stuck in the paper. That's going to happen. Don't worry about it. And then the blue-green light, and when you see this color, I think this one here has a dry glob in it. Yeah. Ugh. Yeah, this one I think I left the tube open. Yeah, because the paint's dried out. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. I will put this aside and I'll use that for something else. So, collage material. Let's see what happens. I'll have to change that. I'll have to change this tube. Seriously? That's one of the downfalls of when you're working in an area that's very hot. And I do know that I have quite a few artsy friends that live in Arizona, and that's the one thing that they've all said. It's so hot. And stuff dries so fast. It's gross. Ugh. Oh. I'm going to show you something. It's what I should be doing is creating this and just leaving it. That way I can show you in another video how to upcycle it. But no, I'm going to show you what to do now. All right. Baby wipe if you have. Kitchen wipe if you don't. Wet paper towel if you have. So I'm just going to go on here, and you can pad to try to remove. I know that's going to work. But oh my god, oh, the paint's dried. What do I do? What do I do? Keep rotating it, because if you rub with an area that's green, you're just going to smush green paint around. What do I do? What do I do? Oh, this is awful. Ugh, I don't like it. Well, what to do? It'd be very hard to write on this, only from the standpoint that unless you're using a white gel pen and writing, then going to a darker pen over the yellow, why don't we just prepare the whole thing just with gesso. So we're going to overlay gesso. I've got some dry bits in there. Flatten it out. If you're using delicate paper, use a plastic palette knife. And just, oh, and this should be dry. I'm not going to wait for this to dry. I want to see what happens if I just put it on while it's still tacky. And I know that goes against everything that I tell people. When your paint gets tacky, stop. Because if you keep rubbing on it, it's just going to pull up. I'm going to switch to my plastic palette knife. There's a piece of dried paint on here which is causing scratches. That's better. And you want to scrape, scrape, scrape. Or you can use an old credit card or health card. problem with those is that the pattern is so perfect. I like the randomness of shapes being done with the palette knife. And wipe, and then you can take a paper towel and it's almost like you're sanding the page, getting rid of all the bumps of the gesso. Nice and smooth. Okay, now what you can do is you can go back with, let's say, another color, and I'm going to use the green gold because I love that color. So you can go back to a color that's transparent. And just go back over that. Look how beautiful that is. Oh. And this technique, the glazing, which is transparent layers, this is how I do a lot of my portraits. Not with these colors, but creating a portrait using a grisaille, monochrome, underpainting, then layer on top of that. And then I can go into yellow. With the dirty brush, go in there. And then we're going to scrape some more gesso on top of that. But the gesso I scraped this time will be more defined. Now, I have been getting some emails, people saying, you need to show how you use your heat gun. So I plugged it in, and it's an embossing tool, so you can use a hair dryer as well. Problem with the hair dryer is the air force is so strong that might blow everything off your table. So try to get one or use it on the lowest setting. But the heat tool, what I do is usually 12 inches away from the surface, and then I keep my hand just slightly above the surface. So if the heat gets too much on my hands, I'm too close to the paper. So I make sure I lift it off. And if you're wearing special nail polish that will melt, then you'll have to be even more careful with this. So it takes just about three seconds for this to heat up. And I always keep the gun moving. That's it. And it's got a little stand on it so I can stand that up. And Chaos just took off. She doesn't like the heat gun. And I can take the palette knife again. Now, what else have I got in here? What else have I got in here? A little block that Joe... Looking for something small. Looking for something small. Oh, here we go. This is a little DecoArt tool. You can just get any piece of plastic and cut it into something small. And I'm varying the pressure. Now, I'm not a fan of that harsh line, so baby wipe, and just gonna wipe some of that back. There we go. And you can repeat this process as often as you want. The one thing you have to make sure though is that it's flat, that there's no bumps in that. But you know, life isn't perfect. You may not be able to use a pen to do your journaling. You might have to use a marker, which is fine. And I'm just loading a little bit of paint on the tippy tip. And it's as simple as that. So assuming that it's flat, you can feel it with your hands when it's dry, and if it's got some bumps in it, you can take a, let's say, a crumpled up piece of craft paper and sand it, or use extra super fine sandpaper and do it, which is what I like to do. If you're not a fan of the rough edges, then take your baby wipe and just go over. And what this is going to do, and you can see I'm not flipping it over, it's just going to distribute the white over the entire area. I liked it better the other way, but this is just to show you the technique. Try both. There we go. One thing I noticed that yellow and green do not photograph well on camera, because this looks garish, but in front of me it's actually quite muted. So I'll have to put up a picture. And you can even take that even further. Let me just hit this with the heat gun for a sec. I can just picture my hydrometer going bzzz. You can even take a little bit of white on a brush, and you can just apply it this way. You have to make sure that the paint is dry though. And I'm picturing where, if I was to write, where would I write? And I can picture more in the center, leaving a nice border around there. And if by chance you go, oops, that's too much paint, actually it looks pretty good, take your baby wipe and remove some. It's as simple as that. There we go. That's it. So creating, I'm going to take this extra gesso and put it on another page. So just creating a background when you want to use it for writing is very simple. And I'm going to have a video. Troubles here. I'm also going to have a video showing you how to do the same thing using the DecoArt misters, because that creates some beautiful effects as well. That one's a really fun experiment. It's always nice experimenting with different art supplies to see what they can do. And as I've mentioned in the intro of the Book of Backgrounds roadmap, is that it's all about the experiment. If you don't like what you've done, don't throw it away. Never throw it away. You can always upcycle it to something else, and I will be showing videos how to do that. Voila! So there we go. So we have yet another background that's designed more for writing, and so create a version of this. Copy, do something similar, do something opposite, try to use the same technique, and I would love to see what you've done. So you can send it to me, or please share it in our private Facebook group, and we're all there to share what our creations, and there's people in there of all different levels, so it's a great mix of people in there. And remember, if you're feeling, ooh, this isn't quite, push perfection out of the window. Okay, just get it done and move on to the next project. So in saying that, I will see you in the next video, and until then, stay inspired.